Hibachi got the gravy on the rice. Rolling in Mexico.
Pittsburgh Steelers fans, welcome back into another episode of the Steelers Q&A. It's Jeremy Betts here with you tonight. We are done with the preseason, and it is on to regular season football, and I could not be more excited. I'm here in my Braden Mann signed hat. Punters are people too. He's not even with the team anymore. I get it. But, he was for a while there. I went to training camp, and I got a punter signature. Jeff Coons on Twitter would be happy with that. So hope you guys are happy tonight as you are getting ready to watch the Pittsburgh Steelers play for real in a couple weeks. 2 weeks from today, the Pittsburgh Steelers will take on the Jets in the Meadowlands, and it's going to be crazy. Jet Life Stadium of Aaron Rodgers fame, right? But now that guy's playing for us. And our guy from last year is playing for them. It's crazy how the NFL works. It is crazy that we are back to football. I could not be more excited. Let's get into it today. I've got Steeler Nation Australia in the chat. How you doing, Mike? Good eye to you. Afton Forehead's in the chat. Jared Devil is in the chat. Everybody's in the chat. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you guys are doing well. It's just me tonight. We're going to have a fun time. My question to you, and something that I will dive into here over the next few minutes as you guys get questions to me. And please do subscribe to the channel. Do that first. And then start leaving comments and start leaving your questions, all right? And we will get to those questions as we go here. But the question I want to ask each of you listening tonight, and the one that I will answer first is, have your expectations for the Pittsburgh Steelers changed after the preseason, after training camp? Has the disappointment and the here we go again, all the same story, everything that always happens, happened again, has all of that calmed down from the end of last season to the point now we've had a draft, we've had free agency, we've had training camp, we've had all these different activities throughout the rest of the summer? Are we back as Steeler fans believing this team has a chance to be something more than maybe we thought that they would ever be again after the Mike Tomlin-led Steelers disappointed us once again in the playoffs last year and really towards the end of the season? I think it's funny how we always come around, or most of us do. And that's fandom, you guys. Don't be ashamed of it. I mean, yeah, as a guy who tries to analyze the NFL as a whole, to look at all the NFL teams, to look at objective chances for all these squads. Yeah, objectively, it's hard to get on board with the Steelers when you see some of these other teams that have the quarterback in place and have the continuity and have been there and done that, especially in their conference, right? It's hard to see the Steelers getting past that, but being a fan means you believe. You start to believe in it. You believe in something for the team, right? And so my expectations have changed. And I think that the expectation I had going into training camp in the preseason is the roster's fine. They're not going to hit the under on their win total, 8.5 wins. That's ridiculous. But I don't think they're going to be there as a contender. But I'm bought in, you guys. I'm bought back in, and I'm ready to say it. I'm ready to say that this team has 3 things that need to go their way for them to be an actual championship contender. Number one, and this is why I think my expectations have changed before I get to those 3, it's just the fact that the Pittsburgh Steelers are a team that is positioned, I think, to be good, right? And if a few of these things hit, then you maybe have a chance to be great. So the number one thing is they have to stay healthy. They have to stay healthy in the key spots. TJ Watt has to stay healthy. Cam Hayward has to stay healthy. The pass rush needs to be ferocious this year. That front 7 really needs to be the driving force for this, and an improved secondary maybe makes this defense elite. And it was really good last year for most of the year. It could be elite this year if those guys all stay healthy. Derek Harmon needs to come back quick. He's a big part of that. So they need to get healthy. They need to stay healthy at those position groups. That's number one. Number 2, Aaron Rodgers needs to throw it back. Aaron Rodgers needs to turn back the clock. He needs to not be the first read's not there, dump it off guy that he's been the last couple seasons. And he needs to turn back the clock and be more of a playmaking quarterback. And I think that the Steelers' offense is going to end up being pass first. I believe. And I wrote an article about this because I think the offensive line is better suited to pass blocking than it is to run blocking. And we thought it would be the total opposite. But that's the way it looks right now. So I think the Steelers are going to be a passing team this year. Not to say that the run game won't have its place, and not to say that the run game might not turn into the thing that drives the offense. But for right now, they're going to have to throw the ball while they figure out the running game and the run blocking and stuff. But those two things specifically, and then this offensive line needs to be consistent and play together. And if they do that, then the Steelers have the roster depth at the right spots, outside of maybe receiver. That's a 1 weak spot, but we've seen teams overcome that with great quarterback play and with great defense. And so it's not out of the question that they could do this. I'm not saying they're going to win the Super Bowl, but my expectations have changed. I expect this team to be a non-pushover in the playoffs. Like, if they lose in the playoffs in round 1 or whatever, in the wild card round, that's going to be a true disappointment to me this year, more so than it's been the last few years, because I think that this team it can do more. So we'll see how it all plays out, but that's me laying it out for you on my expectations. Tell me yours in the chat and we will talk about it. Here's a good one from, let's see here. Something Terrible 15. Let me see if I'll get it on the stream here. Without a legitimate wide receiver 2 and the run game needing to prove effective, my expectations haven't really changed. If offensive play calling is overall more aggressive, I can be swayed. That's a good point, because last year they really brought it under wraps in the second half of the season, right? There's evidence in the Mike Tomlin era that they will get conservative down the stretch, at the very least, and that they may be fairly conservative all year. And I think you're right, though. That doesn't win in the playoffs, so you got to be able to be aggressive in the playoffs. So the play calling does need to improve in that regard. I think it can. I think you have to have the right players in place for that, but that is a very good point there from Something Terrible. We got Brent Howell 2616. Thanks for the comment here, Brent. Expectations really haven't changed. I'm going to sit back and enjoy the ride. That is a fantastic thought process, fantastic approach. Good luck to you. I told my wife the other day, I'm going to be like a passive observer of the league this year. I'm just going to enjoy greatness wherever it may come. I'm going to be, just kind of enjoy the process of growth and development for some of these players on the Pittsburgh Steelers. And, I'm going to enjoy the storyline of Aaron Rodgers, whether he's good or not, whether he can turn back the clock or not, whether this all falls apart or not. But she kind of rolled her eyes at me for good reason, because I say that every year and it's not going to happen again, I'm sure. So I will be very, very in, and probably very upset when things aren't going right, and very excited when things are. And we will have moments of both, I believe, this season. So here's a good question from Brian Brown 6404. How many times do you think Highsmith and Watt will strip Speedy Butterfingers? I mean, Fields. This is more of like a week 1 question, obviously, from Brian Brown. But man, if they get after him, it could get ugly. They're gonna have to contain him, though. I think that's definitely part of it. You got to take a little bit slower approach on the pass rush, especially on man when you're playing man coverage behind it. You're gonna have to keep him contained as best you can. The linebackers are gonna be key. They might have to spy him. They might have to do some blitz packages that keep him in the pocket contained and force him to make throws down the field. But let's not forget, Yanzers, Pittsburgh Steelers made a trip up to Chicago on a Monday night a few years ago when Justin Fields was a starter, and he had a career day against them. 300 plus passing yards, I think 2 touchdowns or something like that. He was just unbelievable, and everybody's like, "Oh, that's the quarterback we drafted 11 overall." Yeah, that's the guy. The Steelers have a way of letting guys do things at a high level against them. I mean, and annoyingly so. And then you look at the end of the game, it's like, oh, they actually didn't do too bad, but it sure felt like he was running all over him. But that's kind of what I would expect to see. So, but good question there. I don't know if, let's see here. Okay, Brian Brown's got a follow-up to that, kind of. I'm glad the Steelers didn't resign Fields. His speed is impressive, but he is a turnover waiting to happen. The Steelers recovered all his fumbles except for one, and that one cost the Steelers a game. That was against the Colts, I believe. And I think you're right. Yep, that was a very fortunate for the Steelers to recover all those. Now, 5 rushing touchdowns, 5 passing touchdowns in 6 games. I would have taken that again this year without the turnovers and with some improvement as a passer and like an offense built around him. But the Steelers didn't want to do that, I guess, for the price point that Justin Fields wanted to take. And actually, I think Justin Fields just didn't want to come back because he thought, yeah, the Jets are going to give me a real chance to start. The Steelers, they might bring in Aaron Rodgers and I might not start again. Or, they might move on from me quicker for a rookie. I don't know. But I don't think Justin Fields wanted to come back. So that is something that is something that the Steelers made a decision to move on from. And I think he probably was a big part of that. Afton Forehead says, not going to lie, the run D still worries me. I don't think it worries me. I just don't know if, is it going to be elite? Maybe not. Is it going to be better and more consistent and more like brick wall like than it was against the Ravens and some of these teams in the back half of the year where they just got run over and run over and run over? I don't know. I don't think it's going to be that bad again. I just can't imagine it being that way. Y.A. Black's playing like a man possessed. Honestly, I think Keanu Benton's going to have a huge year. I think he's going to have a huge year, you guys, next to Derek Harmon and Cameron Hayward. I just think that he's going to have a big year against the run and against the pass. And I think Harmon's going to have a big year if he's on the field as well. So I'm not so worried about it. I'm excited for what they did at linebacker too. I don't think I'm that worried about it anymore, Afton, to be honest. So, but excuse me. But I do understand your angst about it, if you will, because it was that bad at the end of the year. So Brian Brown says, forget that, 17-0, baby. I would love it. But don't hold your expectations to that. 20-0 with a Lombardi would be even more ideal. Absolutely. I'll you know what? I'll take any number of losses in there that you want to give with that Lombardi at the end. However many that takes to still get a Lombardi, we'll take it. So, how can our expectations change? We didn't see first team defense and also first team offense except some players. It's a good question. But I think that my expectations change because I think that the offensive line who we did see is going to be way better or it's going to be as good as we could have hoped, right? Like maybe they won't be complete and elite this year, but they're going to be a top half of the league offensive line. And I think that that's going to be enough to be much better on offense than I was expecting. So that's what sold me is the offensive line work. And then I don't know, when you add the players that you added in the secondary, like Jalen Ramsey, and the depth that they have at corner now, it is just impressive. And the way that they've played the last few years, they don't need that playmaking safety like they had in Minkah Fitzpatrick. So it's a changing of the guard back there, and it's a changing of the scheme back there. And I think that that's going to play a huge part in the front seven getting after the pass rush. And that front seven looks to be great. I would not take any team's defensive line, edge rushers, and linebacking group altogether over the Pittsburgh Steelers. Wouldn't take anybody's. Go find a team. I wouldn't take the Eagles over the Steelers. I wouldn't take the Giants over the Steelers. Those are the only two teams in the stratosphere, I think. Maybe Denver. They don't have any like high profile guys up front. The secondary is really good, but yeah, I'm taking the Steelers front seven over anybody else's in football. So, let's see here. Trying to go back through. This thing always resets to the most recent comment whenever that comes in, so I have to always go back. Something terrible. 15 says, if Field shreds the defense week 1, that will be incredibly embarrassing. Let's hope not. LOL. Major bummer that Harmon isn't going to be there. Yes, major bummer. But can we sit back and talk about the bullet that the Steelers dodged there? I mean, it's such a good thing that he's not going to miss too much time. That would have been devastating from a morale perspective. On the field perspective, it was just going to be so... It's just going to be so disappointing, right? And I'm glad we're not having to worry about that. Hopefully, he will get better very soon. Okay, good question here from Danny Owens Jr. 816. What will be a surprise position pickup after cuts? Okay, so let's talk about ones first that I think are very much in play. Obviously, wide receiver. I think very obviously offensive line. And whether or not the Steelers go grab some help on the offensive tackle spot or along the interior. They did sign Andrews Pete a little while ago, and he looked fine in preseason reps. I think that he'll be fine as an interior backup because I think that's where he's going to play now is on the interior. And then, but they could use some tackle help. They really could. A swing tackle to play behind Jones, somebody that you can trust to hop in and hold you over for a few games if one of Jones or Fautano goes down on the outside. So I think maybe a pickup. Let's see here. This is really tough. Under the radar. Maybe a pickup at corner because I don't know if Beanie Bishop makes this roster, and I don't know if they love the depth at nickel, right? So maybe go get somebody else that can play the nickel. That would be a surprise to me because they have kind of a good amount of depth there. Maybe something on the defensive line when you talk about Derek Harmon missing time, because you never know for sure how long a guy's going to miss. So maybe they would add somebody that they could cut down the road if he comes back and is healthy after week 1 or week 2. So Brian Brown says, I think the Steelers need more tight ends, but yeah, I'm going to say no to that. This one is it, right? Brian Brown 6404. I don't know who the Steelers are keeping, but the 4th-string running back sure look good. That's the deepest position on the team is running back. And actually, if you look across the league, I bet you could say that about most teams. Like most teams, you could probably throw in the 3rd running back and get decent return on investment there, especially if your offensive line is okay or better. So, yeah, there's a few guys who separate themselves, right? Like Saquon Barkley, like Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey. But a lot of guys are just kind of like, yeah, if the offensive line blocks and I see the hole and I can get through it, we can make it work. And offensive lines, if they're good, they can do a lot of good things. So, yeah, I think running back's the deepest position on a lot of teams. So, let's see here. Level up 2 times. Doesn't think the Steelers are leveling up this year. 0-17 is the prediction. Hopefully that's just like your reverse psychology working there. Andre the Giant, 1987, says 13-4 with the AFC North title and a Super Bowl. That would be fantastic. I would love that. I would absolutely love it. Oh man, it happened again. Try to click on Marky D's thing here. I have the 12-5. I have them 12-5 AFC North champ. Okay, we're gonna make our predictions on the Steelers fix this week for the AFC and the Steelers record and everything like that. So I don't want to give it away, but I'll say this: I don't know if they're gonna win the division. You'll find out on my picks on that. Shameless plug, but whatever. But they are not winning fewer than 11 games this year. That's my bold prediction. Okay, no fewer than 11 games. So bang that over. Go in and do the adjusted over-unders or whatever that you can do, and go hit that 10.5 and rake in some cash on your Steelers bet there. That's what I'm predicting. So, and I'll predict whether they win the division or make a wild card, make it as a wild card team, or miss the playoffs, whatever that is. But I think you know where I stand if I'm predicting 11 or more wins and no less than that. So Mark Cunningham says, what's happening, JB? You guys probably see the plastic behind me. We're hopefully getting ready to open this thing up here soon and be able to use or have access to the full space of our remodel here that's taking so long because, you know, time doesn't happen for everybody. I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. So, all right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, I'm going to answer a few more questions, chill and hang out for a little bit longer. I do want some more comments if you want to throw those in there about whether your expectations for the Pittsburgh Steelers have changed after the preseason, after training camp, then whatever your thought process was before all of this happened. So stay tuned. The Steelers Q&A will be right back after this if you're listening on audio, and then if you are watching live, you know we're not going anywhere. Stay tuned. All right, welcome back to the Steelers Q&A. It's Jeremy Betts here. We're talking Pittsburgh Steelers expectations now that training camp's over. Mine have definitely risen. I think that they're definitely a division title contender, a contender in the conference. They're one of those 6 or 7 teams in the conference that I feel really good about being in the playoffs. But honestly, I could see 11 different teams making the playoffs in the AFC. We could just go through it if you wanted to. The Kansas City Chiefs, the Buffalo Bills, the Baltimore Ravens. Those guys feel like locks, right? And then what division am I missing there? That's the South. The Houston Texans, right? Those guys kind of feel like locks. And then you've got the Steelers. You've got the Bengals. You've got the Chargers and the Broncos. That's 8 teams right there. Oh, man, let's see. I like the New England Patriots. I think the Miami Dolphins can be in that mix. So there's 10 right there. I like the Jacksonville Jaguars. Give me 11. The Jaguars are going to be in the conversation for us this week on the Steelers Fix for our prediction show. So, 11 teams right there. And maybe there's a surprise come up. Maybe Tennessee surprises some people. I don't think they're going to be that good in a stacked AFC, but a good majority of the teams in the AFC should have playoff aspirations this year. So we shall see. Okay. Trying to go back and find a couple questions here. Okay, here's a good one from Pickens, you big dummy. Still my favorite handle on here. It really is. Is Robinson making the roster? That would be Mark Robinson. That would be the Steelers linebacker. I would say yes. And that it's really close over. Okay, wait a minute. Now that I'm thinking about it, he would have to get in over Mark Bruner or Carson Bruner, excuse me. And he's looked really good on special teams in preseason, and that's the reason you bring back Mark Robinson is what he can do on special teams. So I don't know. That's tough. That's really tough. Cole Holcomb and Malik Harrison are making this roster as downhill thumpers on defense in the run game. So it comes down to one guy for those 2 spots. That's tough. That's a great question because of the family ties to Pittsburgh. I'm going to give the edge to Bruner because he's looked pretty good in the preseason as well. So I'm going to give the edge to Bruner. I'm going to say Mark Robinson does not make the team. We shall see. Okay, here's one. Big Pun P4X. Higher number. Jaylen Warren fumbles or Broderick Jones holding penalties. That's going to be Broderick Jones holding penalties, although Jaylen Warren's fumble issues, I said it the other night when the game was on. That's why they brought in Caleb Johnson. They have to have a guy who can handle a high volume workload and let Jaylen Warren be the specialist back that he is. That's what you have to do. So that's why Caleb Johnson is here. I'm excited for Caleb Johnson. He's going to get a lot of run this year. He's going to be good. Mark it down. Draft him in your leagues, unless you're drafting in the same league as me. And Jaylen Warren, tale of caution. The thing is, Broderick Jones can have as many holding penalties as you want, probably, and he's not coming off the field as long as he's healthy and playing well outside of that. But Jaylen Warren, if you start fumbling a lot, then you're not going to be able to be trusted. Mike Tomlin will not have a guy fumbling the ball on the field, turning the ball over with regularity. He just will not have it. So that is my prediction there. Let's see. Brian Brown's on one tonight, baby. I don't see how anyone is going to score on the Steelers myself. Yeah, they're going to be good, but they're not going to be that good. Mr. Woodside says, happy if we go 10-7 or 11-6. Can't see us 12-5. I can see it because I think that there's some spots on the schedule where you can get on a roll, but it is going to be tough. But yeah, I think 11-6 is probably the sweet spot. But man, I feel good about it. I do. I feel good about 11-6. I actually feel pretty good about 12-5, but I can see why you would be concerned about that. Obviously. So Steelers Nation Australia, Marky D says, see you mates, gotta go crush beer and chase ruse. I love it. That sounds like the life. Throw an extra shrimp on the Barbie for me. I don't know if that was funny or not, but it's late. Give me a break. Mark Cunningham says, JB, I'm excited for our chances, but do you agree we need a legit wide receiver too in case of injuries to the wide receiver room? Yes, they do need somebody else. I love Roman Wilson. I love Calvin Austin. I love how the Steelers have talked about them this year. I love what they bring to the team, but I'm not ready to crown either one of those guys as a wide receiver 2. They're both, to me, role-playing type receivers. Roman Wilson's the one who I think could break beyond that mold if he has a good year here and lives up to his potential. But still, I think you need a guy that can replicate a little bit of that X-receiver stuff if DK Metcalf misses time. If you lose DK Metcalf, you really don't have anybody for that. Ben Skoranek, I guess, if you wanted to say that, but I don't know, man. That's just not a life I want to live if I can help it. So, let's see. Trying to find another good question here. Well, let's bring up this comment, because I think this is really what the season hinges on. We really need the offensive line to get good. If the offensive line gets good at grade 1-0-3-8-9, if that happens, this team is a true Super Bowl contender this year. Because I believe in the rest of what they've built on defense, and then I believe in Rodgers, the run game, or the running backs, I guess, and DK Metcalf and co at wide receiver. If you include the tight ends in that package, I think the Steelers are fine enough there to be a Super Bowl contender. If they get a wide receiver too, like we just talked about, then I would put them in the high-end teams category in the AFC. So I don't know. I think that's where I feel very comfortable about this team. But I'm just trying to find the question again. Oh, the comment. We really need the offensive line to get good. If it's good to great, this team is great. If it's not great, this team's just mediocre Pittsburgh again. It's just mediocre Tomlin Steelers, and they'll get bounced in the first round of the playoffs, or they'll barely miss the playoffs, and we'll be going into 2026 with go get the quarterback and then focus on offensive line again. And I think the Steelers wanted to be beyond that at this point. Okay, let's see. Mark Cunningham says, the problem with 11-6 is that we're probably going to split with the Browns. That's going to hurt. We don't have to play them on Thursday Night Football in Cleveland, though, this year. So maybe we do sweep the Browns this time. But we have been splitting with them, and it is annoying. My wife lets me know about it all the time. John S3331, do you think the Steelers can replicate 2015 Broncos success? Seems like it all comes down to whether or not this team can run the ball, give Rodgers time to make plays. If they can hit shots down the field like that Broncos team did, and just enough to score like 20 to 24 points on any given Sunday, while the defense does its thing, then yeah, I do think that they could have something similar. I don't think they'll be high-powered like the Brett Favre Vikings were, but I think Rodgers turning back the clock and being dynamic and more of a good fit, right, in Pittsburgh culturally than in New York, I think that's definitely possible. So the range of outcomes for Pittsburgh in that regard is pretty high on the offensive side of the ball. I just think that the floor is still pretty high as well. So you're not going to, the range of outcomes record wise isn't like 6-11 all the way to 11-6. It's like 9-8 to 12-5 probably. And I think maybe even 10-7 to 12-5. That's probably the range that they're in record wise. So we shall see. Great one. So this is where I disagree with a lot of people. And Mark Cunningham says he agrees with Great One here. But Great One says, I think if the offensive line is bad, they won't have to worry about picking too high to get another quarterback. Will be awful. I don't think so. Was the offensive line good last year? No. Was the offensive line good in Ben's last year? No, it was awful. It was bad. And they still won 10 games. I mean, they went to the playoffs. The floor isn't about the offensive line. It's about the defense and Mike Tomlin. And they will get them to the floor that they always get them to. The quarterback and the offensive firepower and the offensive line all together, that's just raising the ceiling, you guys. That's all it is. The floor's set. The floor's set as long as Mike Tomlin is here and that defense is good. So I can't agree with that. That's just not where I'm at. Let's see. Yeah, the names have the names have all changed. I was seeing John S hop in here and say the names have all changed. I see all the dashes and numbers at the end of these names, and it's throwing me off, people. Okay, let's see. Okay, something terrible. I know it's tough with our tight end room being so jam-packed, but do you expect us to see Mount Washington utilized more often and effectively this year? I feel like there's more there to tap into. There's so much more there to tap into, guys. So much more. And I think that the Steelers aren't going to even tap into all that's there because they've got two tight ends ahead of him that are going to be heavily involved in the passing game. But where Darnell Washington can be highly, highly, highly effective is in the red zone and on like third downs and stuff where you just need a guy who's bigger than everybody else that can make plays for you, right? That can go up and get a ball and take over the middle of the field or get up high on a fade route in the end zone or run a seam ball on 3rd and 12 and catch it up the seam for a big first down. Those are the areas where they need to utilize him, where he absolutely needs to be a part of their team. And none of these dump offs to him. Like, that's what John Smith's there for. Pat Freiermuth, between the 20s, right? But get Darnell Washington involved down there in the red zone. Just do it. Make sure he's on the field. I don't care if it's every play. Rotate in the other two tight ends, but Darnell Washington stays on the field in the red zone. He's too impactful in the run game as a blocker. He's too impactful in the pass game as a receiver. I think personally, throwing microphones around here. Apologies. I think personally, Darnell Washington could be the tight end one for the Pittsburgh Steelers if they were to utilize him the way I think that they should be able to. I think he's that good. I don't think that he's been utilized to his fullest extent. He's viewed as a role-playing tight end, and I think that that's short-sighted on the part of coaching staffs. It's a big beef I have. You can tell. Big beef with the coaching staffs that have had him in their arsenal. John S. Bengals miss the playoffs with Joe Burrow. Steelers make it with Duck Hodges and Mason Rudolph. Steelers fans want Tomlin gone. Make it make sense. Yeah, I mean, Tomlin has his limitations and issues as well. So I get like some of the frustrations. Obviously I do. But bro, listen, the floor is the floor because Mike Tomlin's there and because that defense is always good. It's always good. Since 2007, the Steelers have the number 2 defense behind the Ravens overall in that span in EPA per play and success rate. They're number 1 against the pass in that time frame and like number 3 against the run. So they're just always good, consistently good. And, you know, on individual seasons, it may be better than some and worse than some, but they always get in that same range of wins. And yeah, you're right. They can do it with Doug Hodges. They can do it with Mason Rudolph. They can do it with Kenny Pickett. They can do it with aged Ben Roethlisberger. They can do it with Mitch Trubisky. They get to those wins no matter what. They just do. The one player on this team that would dictate to me wins and losses and a floor outside of Mike Tomlin, right, as the coach, is TJ Watt. If TJ Watt were to miss the whole season, knocking on wood, God forbid, if he misses the entire season, that would be the only way I could see the Steelers having a losing season. If he's healthy all year, Mike Tomlin's coaching, I don't care who the quarterback is, they're getting to 9 wins. And that's why I was like, go get Aaron Rodgers, because what he might be able to do for your ceiling, what he might be able to do for your ceiling was going to make it all worth it. Mark Cunningham, the floor is the floor. Maybe that should be the new slogan. It absolutely should be. And that, that's part of fans' frustrations with Tomlin is like the standard is the standard. Well, the standard has been the floor's high, but the ceiling's not. That's been the standard. So, 6 one way, half dozen the other there, Mark. You've got it right. The floor is the floor. The standard is the standard. That is the standard, is that the floor is the floor. Great. Good stuff. That might be where we leave this because that was great. I don't know. Great one. I don't know. I mean, I get where you're coming from. Tomlin's a good coach, but his voice has kind of gone stale. I'm worried about finding someone as good as him. Okay, so the dichotomy of your thought process here is funny to me or it makes sense to me, but also sorry, I had a text here and it threw me off. Let's see here. Okay, we're talking about Mike Tomlin. Sorry, guys, I just got a text that totally threw me off. Yeah, we're talking about Mike Tomlin and the fact that he's, his voice may have gone stale. I don't think it's that. I do think it would be hard to find a good replacement for him that's going to like keep the floor where it's at while raising the ceiling. I think Mike Tomlin's voice has gone stale with the fans, not players, because fans kind of are like, okay, we get it. We get the cliches. We get all that. But what is that doing for winning Super Bowls? Because that's what we want. And but for the players that come in there, it's a breath of fresh air for everyone. It's from Aaron Rodgers to whoever. They love the guy. So So we'll see how it all plays out this year. My expectations are definitely high for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think they're going to be good. I think they're going to be close to great, leaning towards great. If the offensive line looks great, Aaron Rodgers looks good, and the defense stays healthy. So that's my take on it, and it's going to be fun to see. So stay tuned to the Steel Curtain Network. Stay tuned to Fans for Sports for all of your news and notes as we get closer to season start. And throughout the season, we're going to have it all here for you. You don't want to miss out. So stay tuned. That's going to do it for me on the Steelers Fix, the Steelers Q&A tonight. Tune in for the Steelers Fix and the Draft Dynasty podcast the rest of this week. We'll talk to you next time.